Welcome to Monday Morning Methane, the miraculous Mondays of the week. Today we have Bob Stout of several organizations joining us, and really excited to get into conversation with Bob today. Bob has had a very rich career, including Bob, I think 25 years at BP as vice president and head of regulatory affairs. And now you do all kinds of stuff. You're involved with the Harvard Methane Roundtable, with MDOL, with Coefficient. What am I missing?
Coefficient and the Natural Gas Innovation Network. I also work with Carrie Jenks at Harvard on a methane roundtable, and Duke University and Nicholas Institute as well on decarbonization issues. So I think that's, oh, and one other one to mention, which is really critical to my heart and my passion for methane, which we'll get to, which is a bridge building organization called Future 500, where I'm a senior advisor. They bring together companies and environmental groups for dialogue and making progress. So, yeah.
Well, I'm really honored that you joined us on Monday Morning Methane today. I'll never forget the first time we met was at a Harvard Methane Roundtable, and things were getting pretty serious as we were talking about the new EPA methane regulations. And then you kind of stood up and started singing a song about methane emissions and got everybody involved and really lightened the mood in the room, which was really fantastic. And then more recently, we were at a conference together earlier this year, and you managed to find out that it was my birthday the next day, and you just so happened to be presenting. And so I walked into the room in the morning, and you got the entire congregation, probably the most people who have ever sung "Happy Birthday" to me at once.
You deserve the honor, and I'm always happy to sing. So, yeah, sing for my supper.
I almost ran out of the room, but I. Okay, so Bob, I mean, you've done so much in your career, and now you're working on methane emissions. Obviously, it's an important challenge. Curious, what got you into methane? How did you get going on this topic?
Yeah, thank you, Thomas, and just an honor to be part of this. And I enjoy my time with you as well. You bring a depth of expertise and understanding, but also sense of humor and ability to articulate these issues, even to non-technical folks, which is important. So yes, I got involved, as you mentioned, the role there at the end of my career at BP. It was well over 25 years, was running regulatory affairs and policy for the US in the DC office. And I started around 2013 or 2014, and methane was one of the first issues I ended up working on because a key part of my portfolio was climate change and climate policy. But also, BP has long seen both the strong rationale for addressing methane emissions, obviously from a climate perspective, but also the business opportunity there in producing lower emissions gas because consumers want energy that is reliable and affordable. And I think we realize now those are always going to be kind of number one and number two, but also lower emissions. Increasingly, they want that, and they want the transparency that tells them what the emissions are, and they want people to do smart things, whether it be through policy or commercial practices to drive them down. So I got involved in the methane issue, and I like to say I've worked the issue now for over a decade through four different administrations now, and obviously each of the policy priorities of those administrations were somewhat different. There's been quite an oscillation back and forth. But one thing that's been very consistent, I think, in BP's and my own advocacy, and also in some receptivity, whether it be Republicans or Democrats, is to the benefits of innovation in driving down these emissions. If you wake up every morning worried about climate change and its impacts, and many do and should, then you've got to drive down methane emissions because it's such a powerful greenhouse gas pollutant. At the same time, if you wake up thinking about how do we leverage our energy resources, how do we make sure we're capturing all of it, and how do we do that lower cost and more innovatively and efficiently, you also want to be using the best technologies to stop leaks, and drive down those emissions. So that runs across all of those different administrations and all of the different policies. And the last thing I'll say is, and I was referring to this before, one of the reasons I so enjoy working on this issue and have chosen to continue doing it after my retirement from my role at BP is it's an everybody wins kind of issues. There are so many issues in our public policy and in our debate where it's polarized. And we are dealing with that polarization even as we talk about this issue. But finding these emissions through cost-effective technologies, getting those out there is something that where everybody wins, both economically as well as in terms of addressing the environment. And if
Moment
I can
too.
say
So
one other
yeah.
thing, I think, let's say in North America, can benefit because I think we have a unique suite of capabilities both to find and drive down the emissions and also to measure and report them in credible ways. And
Uh-huh.
as folks in Europe and Asia increasingly, like I said, they want the trifecta, reliability, affordability, and lower emissions. And if we can offer that trifecta to them, then that advantages us over other producers in the world or even within the domestic market as you look at it who are
Uh-huh.
not addressing that. So that again raises all boats and creates a benefit for us geopolitically as well.
But I want to ask you, what's one thing that you think is important for making progress on methane emissions that you're working on at the moment that you'd like the community to know about?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to sort of make 2 points, but under that question. So first of all, my background is in policy and advocacy, and before that, I was a lawyer, so that runs through my whole career. And I think I want people to understand the opportunity, and we've kind of articulated it in the case, be it right or left, for innovation and how everybody benefits. But I think talking about this issue in a way that is inclusive of all different political and policy perspectives can be really powerful. And I'm part of a coalition of a variety of different companies called the Natural Gas Innovation Network, Engine. And it's about how innovation and transparency can be promoted. And I think there is a role, whatever the role is for government in terms of regulation, there is also a role for the government in terms of putting, I think, its seal of approval and helping support all of the efforts that are out there to create a credible framework for measurement, monitoring, reporting, and verification of emissions. And as I was saying before, there is a role, I believe, here, being an American, for Americans to carry forward and engage on those issues and make sure the frameworks are being done in a way that is consistent and can help markets develop because we will benefit for that. So I think it's important that we talk about that inclusively and not assume that this is simply the province of one party or another. And our coalition is very involved in talking to the administration, the current administration, as well as the Republican Congress on these issues. And we're finding a lot of receptivity. Relatedly, both a political and I think also an important commercial point is this also should not just be inclusive of the large companies like my former company, BP, or all of these leaders. Those leaders now have discovered a lot of best practices, that technologies are mature enough and are scaling up to be cost effective so that smaller and mid-sized producers can also get in the game. And I think that's really important. It's also important politically so that those smaller and mid-sized producers don't see this just as a game to try to regulate them out of existence, which is a concern that they have. And they also have to be concerned about cost. But now, through techniques, we can find the bigger leaks faster. Companies like yours and others can help people understand all this data that comes in a way that's cost effective. And they're capturing more product and making more money and getting more efficient. So I think that's kind of both politically and commercially, we need to be inclusive of all of those different players.
Uh-huh. I completely agree. And, as you alluded to, we're kind of in the business of supporting companies who choose to go down the path of reducing their methane emissions. And so we encounter this quite a lot where we're kind of in a position to where we need to articulate the business case for why an operator, especially a smaller or mid-sized operator, may take kind of precious cash flow and allocate it towards reducing methane emissions. I think we've gotten better at that, but I think there is a ways to go, and I hope that, I think a lot of the conversation around MRV right now is framed in terms of international trade. But I do hope that there is a domestic market that strengthens and emerges for low methane gas and low methane energy in general. Do you see that market developing in the kind of in the near term, or do you think it'll take a little bit longer? How do you see that evolving?
I do think it will develop. It is already developing, and I'm part of a lot of discussions, as you mentioned, different
Hmm.
groups I'm involved with about that. And one driver will be the my friend Dan Ramito, I know you talk to, talks about the tech bros, the technical community, data centers, and so on. They have many of them have strong climate ambitions and strong ambitions to reduce their emissions and their footprint for what they buy and use. And I think having the MMRV, having the framework that can show this is doable, which I think is increasingly possible today with technology and data science, such as you're involved in, plus that demand, that idea, bring those buyers and sellers together. And I'm seeing this happen increasingly. I think that can catalyze a market. It's not going to happen immediately, but I do see it's starting, and I see a potential to scale it up. And it's, again, more important than ever because we can't rely on just regulations or one form of policy to drive this. We need to catalyze markets. And if we can do that, I think that'll really make the difference.
Well, I've always thought of you as a great instigator of collaboration, and it sounds like you believe that's the antidote here, and I completely agree. So I always run over on Monday Morning Methane because I talk too much and I get too curious and interested in what folks are
Me
working
too.
on. But is there any kind of one last thing you'd like the methane community to think about or to ponder?
I do. I kind of want them to ponder. I'm thinking now maybe through a great singer who I would like to channel and apologize to. That's the great Eric Clapton, to a song. And these are my final thoughts on the topic. You can't get it done with method 21 methane. Emissions will stay high with just OGI
Methane.
methane. Find big leaks, survey sites, fly a plane. Methane. One more verse. Producers large and small can now answer the call. Methane. By finding leaks of gas, you can make more cash. Methane. Let's team up and use our bigger brain. Methane.
Woo!
We can do this.
It's my kazoo solo for your amazing. That was awesome, Bob.
Thank you,
Thanks
Thomas.
so much for joining us today on Monday Morning Methane. It was an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure as well. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, take care.
Take care.